What is up, my fellow writing addicts? I'm Marissa, and today we're discussing how role-playing improves your writing. Now, a few of you might be wondering, what is role-playing? And in essence, it's more than one person taking on a character and doing their dialogue and interactions. You can take more than one character, but I would limit it to like 2, but getting away. Now, there are a few different ways to doing this. There's the most popular, which is text-based, which is you writing it out and you as your character, and then another person will respond as their character, and you just go back and forth, and as you do so, you create a story, and it's honestly the most fun thing to do. I love it out of the 3 options I'm going to give you. The next is Dungeons and Dragons, which is you have a DM, and for Dungeons Master, and they create a story, and you're a character that, goes through the story. And as a character, you don't know everything. You don't know if the path to the left is safe or to the right, or if the DM is being a bitch and it's just a fucking circle. You have no clue, which is the best and worst of it. The last option that I'm going to talk about is LARPing, which stands for live action role playing, which is basically you being the character. You dress up, you act, you never break character. And you run around with these other people trying to recreate a story, but it's a lot of improv. It's a shit ton of improv. Now, there are other ways, but those are the main ones that I see. Now that we know what role-playing is, we can talk about how it improves the overall quality of your writing. And first things first is that it helps you get into your characters' heads. Obviously, with role-playing, you basically are living through that character. Your sole purpose is to get what they want. If it's get another person to pass them the butter, you have to communicate both verbally and non-verbally through your character to get what they want. You are in their head, you're in their thoughts. So when you go to your book, you can go through that process yet again and just get in there so much faster and have that character be more authentic. And of course, following that, helps you have more natural dialogue, because obviously when you're writing, you know what you want to happen. You know if you want these 2 people to come together and fall in love, you're going to make the dialogue where you want it to be. But if you have to have your character convince basically someone else to fall in love with them, or, to be suave, and the other person doesn't get it, that's more natural, and it helps you bring out that more natural dialogue. Naturally, following that, it helps your, characters have different and, very importantly, distinct voices. When you're doing role-playing, you don't have the luxury of it being like the main character, or, the name being like Lucy said. So what tends to happen is it's better if you can have that distinct voice. If one person has an accent, if one person speaks more eloquently than another person, that'll help not only your fellow, role players figure out who the hell is talking, but you'll take that, and so your readers will be able to distinguish who is talking without even have to be told, which, trust me, helps a lot in the reading experience. One thing that I took away from role-playing especially was having more non-verbal cues. And these things like narrowing of the eyes, shaking of the hands, basically you can say so much without saying a word. And that, I think, is so important in not only for role-playing, but in your book. You can give these subtle clues that your fellow role players are going to pick up on, but especially your readers. And I like having that reminder in role-playing, because it helps, give more tone, or give like, okay, so this person is stressed or angry. So you don't have to physically tell them this character is angry. You can just show them. It also helps you think through your actions, especially in D&D. Holy crap. So much of what you do and what you say affects the story. Sometimes it is that one decision, sometimes that one, quote unquote, joke that'll really either help or hinder the campaign. And I like that for, especially for characters, because it also helps, this is the next point, but it helps the tension, because if they worry about their actions, if they worry about the consequences, it makes them feel more real, because, it's kind of hard as the writer, everything's going to be okay. Your character does not. They should feel tense. If they're going to walk up to their crush, they don't know they're going to say yes. We do, but they don't. They should feel nervous. If they're entering battle, they don't know if they're going to live. So you need to add that tension and that uncertainty and have them think through it. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say with these 2 points. The next thing it helps is blocking. Now, that's more of a theater term. I apologize, I don't really have another term to describe it. So blocking is essentially you you walk through the scene of where your character goes. You have point A where they start, and then you have the ending, which is, let's say point D. You have to figure out how many points do they hit in the space. And you do this with all your characters, typically, as a director would with all their actors. And when you do role playing, you have to be conscious of the blocking, because you have to make sure that you're on the same page with the other person, because it can get real confusing real fast. And, once you kind of know where all your characters are in a scene, it helps it flow better. One of the lesser known things that a role playing teaches is how to keep your characters and the plot interesting. And this is because you need to keep the other person on the other side invested in whatever the fuck is going on. If they're bored, the audience will be bored too, and they'll leave. And this is something super essential that you will take with you. What else is worse than a boring fucking plot? Of course, you can also take away character inspiration, and that is you watch, and I do this a lot too, right? I see Haley do something and I'm like, ooh, I need to use that for a character. And that's essentially what it is. They write a character in a different way that you're used to, and it inspires you to take that, unique way and apply it to either one of your characters or maybe a side character. And that is also another way actually to keep your plot interesting. So, fun tip. It's also a way to get your writing critiqued. I know it's probably a little weird because you're like, oh, but it's role-playing, it's for fun, which it is, but it's still writing. And people will say like, hey, maybe your dialogue could be a bit something, either a bit more romantic, maybe less filler, less descriptive, something. Your character could be a bit more driven, something. They will, critique it, and you can take that critique and take it back to your writing, because I bet you nickel, if you're doing it in the role playing, you're doing it in your own writing, whether you realize it or not. And also, as a side thing, I'm going to warn you, how you respond to that criticism will tell you a lot about how far you will get. If you take it graciously, because you don't have to do it. You can be like, you know what, no, I think my character is fine, and they'll be like, cool, and you accept the consequences of that. But if you get so offended, you're not going to make it far. I have heard that like 10 times to Sunday, that if you can't take criticism, you're not going to make it in this field. You just won't. So that's an aside, but still very important. Because honestly, what role-playing actually also does help is commitment. Because you have someone there to hold you accountable. Like, we're gonna do this role-playing at this day, at this time. And if you don't show up, whether it's for multiple role-playing sessions or just for that one, there's someone else on the other end. Especially for like D&D, where I meet on Saturdays for my D&D sessions. If I don't show up, my group will get pissed. And they'll say, hey, you need to do this. And it also, it's still writing, especially for the text space, mainly for the text space, because you are writing out that dialogue. You are getting those nonverbal cues in. It's helping your blocking, as I said earlier. So don't feel bad if, maybe you do spend a few hours role playing, because that's still writing. The next one I'm going to talk about is very LARPing specific, because as you are that character and you're in that costume, it gives you experience for you to put into the book. And I do mean very little things. If you are standing in a battlefield, what is it like to be surrounded by others preparing for battle? Is it really hot? Is it raining? What do those feel like? Those, sensory details. If you're in a Victorian style dress, talk about how maybe uncomfortable it is or how hard it is to walk. Because those little details will really make the book feel more realistic. That's a tip that I've heard also a lot of times, is that it's the little things that'll sell the bigger ideas. And the last way that role-playing helps is that it gives you more experience. And it does this because instead of having this big commitment of switching from maybe a fantasy to just pure romance, you get just a little bit like of a taste where you can really explore with, again, without that huge commitment. So in your role playing, you can try being more romance focused. You can try little things as doing different character types that you've never done before. Hell, different points of views. If you've never written a guy before, try doing that. There's also different, everything really. You can do so much with just this little thing. It's quite amazing. Now, my experience with role-playing is typically with Haley. We are co-authors. It's how we get our dialogue. I'll talk in a different video about how to take basically a role-playing session and move that to book, because that's a whole other thing to talk about. But what I've noticed in my writing is that everything seems more natural. I'm trying to think about all the characters' points of view instead of just the one that I'm currently stuck in, to get that more full experience, to really enrich the story. I've noticed that with the D&D sessions, I'm trying to add a bit more comedy. So because even if you have a tragedy, you have to put in a joke. A few. You have to liven the mood. You can't leave it down in the dumps 24/7. It's not gonna be a pleasant experience for anybody, really. And just overall, I've noticed that over the years of just role playing, my writing has just gotten better and better, and it's just gotten easier to get into my characters' like ways of thinking and to give them specific ways of speaking and like nervous tics, because those are things that I think about when I do those role playing sessions. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Tell me down in the comments below, have you ever role played, and like how? Like what is your favorite way, way to do it? Tell me either here or on Twitter at writing_addicts or on Facebook at facebook.com/writingaddicts. You can also send me something on Instagram at writing.addicts. And of course, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so it tells you when, I put out videos. And of course, hit that like button and have yourself an awesome fucking day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, lovelies!